You remember me when the west wind moves among the fields of barley. You can tell the sun in his jealous sky when we walked in fields of gold. So she took her love for to gaze a while among the fields of barley. In his arms she fell as her hair came down among the fields of gold.
Fundamental question people ask themselves today is what happens when we die. Some people are scared it's just a load of nothingness.
Although some people are happy about that, as they believe this life is just not worth living.
Some religions enable us comfort, say holding a strong faith that say it is not just black and empty.
It's filled with love and eternal happiness, and should you ever reach there, this life is worth living. Some religions tell us that in spiritual ways life never really ends, but it is what you make it.
The purpose of this video is to inform, create some comfort and perhaps bring some ease.
So open those minds and have a little faith.
The Christian faith teaches that there is life after death. Jesus, throughout his whole time on earth, talked about going back to his Father, being with God, and that he promised that there'd be a place for his disciples after he'd gone. So that the whole of Christianity is shot through with a belief in a life after death. So yeah, it's fundamental to the Christian faith. It is love that takes us there, not our good efforts. I don't think we should worry about the mechanics of it.
Right.
What the Christian faith proclaims is that heaven is going to be the place where God is.
Yeah.
God is the manufacturer of this place and all the fantastic things about it. So asking those kind of mechanical questions to me are pretty. It's like asking, what shape is yellow?
So pointless.
It's such a meaningless question.
Yeah.
Really. The fact is, it's going to be the place where God is, where love is. And where everything that's good about this planet and this world and this life, this universe, the starting point for all that is going to be where heaven is. And hell is simply the place where that isn't. I don't think hell is a place of sort of fire and brimstone and
Like it's depicted
Yeah.
in
yeah, like
pictures,
it's
isn't it?
depicted. Yeah, but how do you use language to describe it?
You can't.
No, you can't. Someone once described hell as God's final gift of love to human beings, which I
Right.
thought was an interesting comment. What he meant by that was, if you really do want to turn your back on God, God gives you the ultimate compliment of saying, I'm going to let you do that. And that, to my mind, is hell.
I find that so inspiring. I really do.
Living in hell is as a concept that I think sometimes has just been in many ways manufactured through the ages. I think that
Definitely.
do I believe in a present life and the next life? Probably not. What I believe is a continuation, and I believe that because what I see in this earth is that Jesus, well, for one, in the Old Testament, in Hebrew literature, they never ever spoke of hell. It's never referred to. They talk about places. They didn't really linger on the concept of life after death or hell. They never really focused on that. In ancient Near Eastern theology, there was concepts of afterlife and journey, but it was never a stop and start. It was a kind of continuation. And so therefore in the Old Testament there's nothing. In the New Testament, Jesus is the only one who refers to hell, and he only refers to it 12 times. And his translation in the Greek of hell is actually another name called Gehenna. And Gehenna, hell is in the English is the word Gehenna. Ge means valley and Henna means Hinnom. Gehenna is the valley of Hinnom, which was an actual valley on the southwest side of the city of Jerusalem.
Oh, right.
And people tossed their garbage and waste into this valley. And there was a fire there, burning constantly to consume trash. Wild animals fought over scraps of food along the edges of the heap. When they fought, their teeth would gnash, a sound like gnashing of teeth. Gehenna was the place with the gnashing of teeth. where the fire never went out. Gehenna was an actual place that Jesus' listeners would have been familiar with. So the next time someone asks you if you believe in an actual hell, you can always say, yes, I do believe, and a garbage goes somewhere.
Buddhists don't believe in reincarnation because that implies that you have a soul or an eternal self which somehow or other lives on and on in other life forms. But there is philosophy, and he invited us to consider the teachings and then said that you must question this, and if it accords with your reason and obeys the laws of logic and makes sense to you, then accept it and base your life on it. But if it doesn't accord with reason, and if it it's contrary to the laws of logic, then just reject it. So in other words, there is no so-called dogma in Buddhism. There's no theory which you have to accept in order to be saved or to gain access to some sort of heaven. And yet you hear Buddhism talking about rebirth, because nothing is actually destroyed. If you study the whole of the cosmos, nothing is destroyed. I'll give simple little examples. If you take a piece of paper, for example, and burn it, that paper is not destroyed, it's just changed into something else.
Oh, right, okay.
So the paper becomes ash,
yeah.
and it's the products of combustion, and there's certain heat energy produced and whatnot. So that paper still exists, but in other forms. In other forms.
I think, for me, Jesus is important. And what I find is that, he lived, and I do believe he was God becoming man, stepping into our shoes, God taking on human flesh, lived amongst us, demonstrated what it was to really live and really know God. I do believe he died, and I do believe he was crucified.
Right.
I don't think that it was a faked death. I think it was a real death. Crucifixion, terrible Roman torture, and I believe he died and he was put in a tomb and he was dead, stone cold dead. But I do believe that he was a sign of something which was to come, and that he did physically rise again from the dead 3 days later, and that he was a sign, what you might call a foretaste, a deposit of that which was to come, and that he was the beginning of a new heaven and a new earth.
So what have we learned?
Christians have a strong, firm belief that everyone experiences a piece of heaven and hell on earth, as well in the afterlife, and it is God-given love that gets us through.
Although being active believers, we are all only human, therefore to be scared of death is in our nature.
Buddhists take a slightly more atheist view on the afterlife. They don't necessarily believe in a God, but do believe in the Buddha who taught them the ways of life, for example, respect from one another and karma. The idea of living life to the full and reaching your full potential will reveal the type of life we receive once the soul has moved on. Atheists disregard God's existence completely and therefore believe there is nothing after death.
Like Christianity, Islam teaches the continued existence of the soul and a transformed physical existence after death. There will be a day of judgment, and humanity will be divided between the eternal destinations of paradise and hell.
But the question of what happens to us after we die still remains a mystery, and it's well worth respecting other religions and not disregarding them completely.
So unfortunately for us, we will never really know, but it's interesting to have a thought.
Now it's our turn to ask you.
Will you stay with me? Will you be my love among the fields of barley? And you can tell the sun in his jealous sky when we walked in fields of gold. I never made promises lightly, and there have been some that I've broken, but I swear in the days to